Okay. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the SIlverlake Priestess Podcast. I'm Jaime Black and I'm here with Miranda Rondeau for the podcast episode When the Drummers Were Women. So for all of those of you who've been following me for the past few months, I've been posting about the frame drum like crazy. Anytime that I'm sitting in circle, I've been singing with it myself, just posting and sharing. One, because it's just been a super exciting experience for me to be activated and awakened this way and to be with my drum again in this lifetime. And two, because I'm so excited about finding other women to drum with. And Miranda is someone that I've met. She was the beginning of this for me. I've been posting her video as well, the video of her singing with her drum in those caves in Spain, and that activated me. A friend of mine showed me that video, and I was just like, whoa, yes, I want to come to this drum class with you. And then that was the beginning. And so Miranda, welcome to the show. I'm so honored to have you here. I'm honored to have you as my teacher in life and for this that you've brought into my life. But I'm really excited to have you on the show and be able to share you with everybody.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and blessed to be able to share. And it's been really wonderful and beautiful to have you join and about everything. Witnessing you just progress beautifully. So I appreciate your devotion and your dedication.
Thank you. So we're going to start with the basics. I have, I always say this in the beginning, but especially just for anyone who might be seeing this for the first time, the SIlverlake Priestess Podcast, it's a podcast about women who are reclaiming their past selves, or women who are reconnecting with memories and lifetimes of being priestesses, of sitting in circle with women, of being in sisterhood, of also, being witches, doing psychic work. A lot of this is about reconnecting with spirit, listening to our intuition. And so the frame drum this was new for me. And it is a tool that the priestesses used. And I didn't even know that when I was going into showing up in circle and playing. So I want to have Miranda here on the show because I do want to hear about your personal journey. And I've heard your story a few times, and it is very powerful. And also I want to be able to share about the frame drum and to educate women on what it is. So many of us think that drums are for men, right? And we think of drumming also as like maybe a drum kit. And anyway, this is a very powerful tool for all of us to use, even personally. So I would like to just start with asking you to share with us, what is the frame drum?
I'd be happy to. So a frame drum is any drum where the head is larger than the depth of the shell. Basically, it's a strip of wood bent into a shape of a hoop, and originally with real skin stretched across the drum. They come in different sizes, all the way from 8 inches to 22 inches, some up to 28 inches. They can be played either with a mallet or with your fingers. It's an archetypal instrument. It's one of the oldest ones. They're found on almost every continent, and each culture will have a different name for the drum, as well as different rhythms, different techniques, different songs and styles. They have drums that have 2 heads. So this one just has one, but they have one where there's 2 heads on them. They have drums where you also can put jingles on the outside, within the frame. And they have some drums also that have chains behind them that hang. So there's many different kinds of frame drums. There's a really big world, actually. And the ones that I'm playing are inspired through the Mediterranean area. the Mediterranean area, my teacher, Layne Redmond, discovered that there was a whole history of drumming that were the women. And so this is the drum that they played. What's special about the frame drum is that when you play it, the vibrations come straight back to you. So you automatically receive, the vibrations of the drum. And, also, holding it is a beautiful thing because we're not just holding a drum, we're holding all that the drum represents too. So there's a whole thing about what the drum represents for me and for Layne, and for all the women images that she found. She wrote a book called When the Drummers Were Women, the spiritual history of rhythm, and she collected thousands and thousands of images of frame drummers that happened to be women. She shares about why were they carrying the drum. So some other things about the frame drum. So nowadays we have synthetic heads. When we play with the skin, it's affected by the moisture in the air, and so with the synthetic skins you have a consistent sound, which is important if you're going to perform or offer music. Most of my songs are based on the tone of the drum, and I usually see the drum as much as a melodic instrument because they all have its own tones on the drum. Like the lowest sound of the drum is doom. It's the most resonated sound, and it's called doom, and it's connected to an element, water. So this was passed down from my teacher, Layne Redmond, and she learned it from Hamza El-Din. He's a Nubian musician, and also frame drummer. And so this is connected to the elements. Drum is doom, connected to water. And we are made of more than 75% water, as well as the earth is more than 75% water. And water is cleansing, purifying. We use water, every day. So it's a very important part of our life, water. On the edge of the head is the highest part of the drum, is tek, and that's related to the element fire. So fire is the energy in our body, fire is the sun, fire is what cooks our food, fire is what gives us light in the night. Fire used to be where we gathered around and cooked our food and sang our songs and shared our stories. And so tek on the highest part is fire. We do 2 fingers on the edge. It's teka. Still, it's also fire. And then the pads of our fingers, when we stick to the drum, that's called ka. Depends who your teacher is. My teacher, Layne, says ka. Some people say pa. And this is to the element earth. So earth, also the bones in our body. Earth, Mother Earth, who provides us everything. Where do we live? We all live on the earth. Where do we get our food? We're on the earth. So the earth is like our mother who provides us everything, and sustains everything, sustains all of life. And so this is earth. And then we have the brushing of the head, and that's connected to the element air. So air is our breath. Air is the wind, spirit. And how often do we need to use air? Like every moment. So we are made of all the elements, and so the drum becomes like my tool of remembrance, of remembering what is sacred. And so that's a little bit about the frame drum, but it is for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's more.
Well, how did you? So some of us that already know that Layne was your teacher, and so Layne Redmond wrote that book that you were talking about, When the Drummers Were Women, and that's why we wanted to call this episode that. But how did you find her, and how did it happen for you? How did you even find the drum, and how were you able to work with Layne?
Well, I think things drop in at different times. Really, I was always wanting to just find all the things that I love to do, like following your highest excitement, following what gives you the most joy. I love dancing. And so the first time I heard drumming was at the Whole Life Expo, and I'm like, it was pulling my soul, the drumming. So I'm like, oh, because I wanted to dance. And I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. And then the next time I heard drums was at a Grateful Dead concert, but not in the concert. They have in the parking lot, like a whole city of people who tour to come to all the concerts. And then there's like a big tent city, but there's also drum circles. And I'd gone and I heard a drum circle, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go to that drum circle because I can that like the tribal, I guess the tribal sounds and the rhythms, and because I wanted to dance. And so I went, and I was just like, I just got into a trance dancing, and I loved it. I didn't even think about that I was going to drum. I was more into dancing. And again, I thought also drumming was for the guys. Anyways, so the dancing was my medicine that I liked. And then at some point I worked at a bookstore, and I opened one of the boxes, and it said Drumming at the Edge of Magic by Mickey Hart, which happens to be the drummer for the Grateful Dead. So I'm like, okay, I got to follow the synchronicities. So in my life, that was really important about following the synchronicities. And I got that from Joseph Campbell. He talked about when you live your life with your eyes open, everything's a sign, a signal, and a new door will open. And so I was in that time period, I was like wide-eyed, and like, okay, mark all those synchronicities. And so I opened the book, and the box, Drumming at the Edge of Magic, by Mickey Hart. I go, okay, I'm supposed to read this. So I think it took me a couple of weeks to read it. And one of the things that said in there, it talked about entrainment, the law of entrainment. And he describes it as you go into a room where there's lots of ticking clocks, and eventually the law of entrainment says that they will all eventually tick together. So he used this analogy for the drum circles. And I remember, oh yeah, the drum circles, what was so magical about them? And so this was the missing part that he was sharing, is that all the drummers can come in, and maybe they start off a little bit chaotic, and then at some moment, because of the law of entrainment, they will all have this unitive experience, like together. And I thought in my mind, I wanted to experience that. I want to experience that sometime. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I want to. The second thing that stuck to me, he wrote that drumming has two sides, the technical side and the spiritual side. And because he said that, for some reason, it just kind of gave me permission to like, oh, does that mean I could drum? Like anyone can drum? So in my mind, that gave me permission. And we just happened to have a couple drum congas in the garage that belonged to my sister. And so I'm just going to play them. And so I went and just went at them, playing them. So every day for 2 weeks, like for hours. And I started playing, and I'm like, oh, this is a low tone. Okay, great. And I moved my hand. I go, oh, this is a high tone. And I'm like, oh, well, I muffled tones, and then like different places. And then, I've taken piano lessons and violin. I was in orchestra and always singing. So I had some, background in music and rhythm. And so I was just finding all these different rhythms and patterns, and I was trancing out on my own and having a good. So I was developing a relationship to my hands and the sound of the drum. And finding patterns, for 2 weeks straight for hours. And then my friend said, hey, do you want to come to a gathering of music, people playing music? I said, sure. So we came, they opened the door, and they were playing Grateful Dead songs. So here's a Grateful Dead theme. And then they handed me some bongos, and I just grabbed them. So I was playing really comfortable and familiar. And they're like, wow, you play really well. How long have you been playing? I said, 2 weeks. And then they had some other drums around too. And I was like, my goodness, is it going to happen? Because I was like, can they stop please playing the guitars? Can we drum? And at some point they put their guitars down, they got the drums, and we started playing. And it happened. We were playing, we entered an unspoken place to deeply listen. and it was very intimate, the listening. And we became like a flock of birds in a school of fish. We would be on this rhythm, and then it would change and swirl around to the next rhythm, and it was like we were psychically connected, like we were one body. And I was like, I go, this is it. I don't need anything else in my life. This drumming and this unitive experience is like just it was like, yeah, the peak of a spiritual experience for me. And I didn't need anything else. I like got my dancing and I got my drum circle drumming. And so we did that for like 2 years straight. Every weekend we would play. And then the next year, Mickey Hart got another book called Planet Drum. And in it was the first time I seen Layne, because she was inside the book holding her tambourine with her head up, and it's like she was in ecstatic bliss. And by this time, the 2 years, I got into 2 groups called One Percussion and Circle of Rhythm. They're percussion-based groups, and so I was already performing with other types of drumming. And then my friend had an organic coffee shop that had performances, workshops, drum circles, also every week. And I went on a Wednesday night, and then that book was there, Planet Drum, and it was open to her picture. And then a flyer next to it said, Layne Redmond was coming to do a presentation performance on Thursday. So the next day, and I was like, wow, what if I didn't come tonight? You guys didn't tell me. I'm a drummer. You're supposed to tell me these things. I was just happy. I saw it. I'll go, okay, I'm going to come. So I came the next day, Thursday night. She was playing the frame drum and the tambourine. I had never seen anyone play it. And I was like, wow. And then she gave the slideshow presentation of the ancient drummers, women drummers. And then she talked about each one. And as she was talking, when she was playing, I just had what felt like a remembrance, because it was like a homecoming, like something that was like, wow, this looks so familiar. I know if I would have lived back in those days, I would have been one of those drummers. And I was thinking, I need to study with this woman. And they said that she had a workshop on Sunday, but it was all full. And I'm like, what? I'm supposed to be there. And I really don't like asking, but I asked my friend that was hosting her, I go, hey, is there any way you can get me into that workshop? I really need to be in that. I'm a woman drummer. I'm supposed to be in that. Because while everyone's trying to get in there, let me see what I can do. And he said, by this time it's like already 11, 12 at night. And he said, well, whoever can give her the money, first. And I go, well, I'm going to come to her house 5:30 in the morning before I go to work, because I have to be at work at 6:30. And I'll, put the money underneath. And then she said, well, you still have to get a drum. I have to find a tambourine. I go, okay, I just need to give you this money so I'm in. I'll figure out the tambourine later. And I actually had to work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I had 2 jobs. I worked at a before and after school daycare center, and I had to go to school and then go to work. I worked at the bookstore, and I had to close each night. So I actually had to work on the day of the workshop. So I don't know. I was like, okay, when am I going to find the time to buy the drum? Because I'm actually at work. And I had to find someone to work for me. So I called all the bookstores in Southern California. I'm like, can someone work for me on Sunday? Can someone work for me on Sunday? I couldn't find anybody on Friday, and then most of the day Saturday I couldn't. And then at my lunch break, I go, okay, this is when I'm going to try to find the drum. And I thought, hey, there's an Egyptian store in Bellflower, which is like 15 minutes away. Maybe they have one. And this is my only chance. I don't know if they have it. And so I go on my lunch break there, and then there's a sign that says, out to lunch. I'm like, no. But I came back in 15 minutes, and I was looking in the window, and I think they have one. And they had one. They had a drum with the 2 rows of jingles, which was, it was very specific what she was looking for to bring. And then I came back to close the store, and I asked the woman, I'm like, hey, this workshop's tomorrow. I didn't find anyone to work with for me. Will you work for me? And she goes, well, I specifically asked for it off to do my midterms. Oh my God, please, this is a chance of a lifetime. She lives in New York. I just know I need to be there. And she goes, all right. And so That's how I got started. I took her workshop. I bought her instructional VHS,
Mm-hmm.
and then I never stopped ever since. And the woman that actually brought her to California was a women's studies professor, Wendy Griffin, and soon after she created a all-women's frame drum group called Lipashau, and Lipashau was actually named oldest named drummer in written history, and she happened to be a high official and a priestess in a place called Uru. So, so it was, the group was based on the mythology of and history of women in poetry, and she, I grew up actually thinking I was cursed first, and I don't know why, but I believed it and then cursed to be a woman, and then a woman of color. So I always was like mad that I was born with women, but finding Layne, and as she talked about these women, these ancient women, as people who were responsible for the spiritual functions of the community, who were revered women, women as sacred vessel to bring in life. And so these were new vocabulary for me. And I was like, wow, how did I believe this nonsense? And so, finding her was also my embracement and my journey back to embracing my womanhood. And so this group with Wendy Griffin, all these women were women honoring women. And so I'm like, I need to hang out with these women and drum with them. And so I learned a lot through them. And I learned about the burning times, that the women who were like the healers and the herbalists, who were like the midwives, were considered bad or considered witches, and they were burned. And I was like, wow, no wonder I didn't probably have this memory of this, and I probably didn't want to be a woman. It wouldn't have been safe. And I feel connected to the women that's in the past who experienced pain and torture and violence and oppression. They've come up in my meditations and visions where I'm connecting to them, or where I'm like crying for them. That connection with the drum. And so that's basically how I found the drum, and how I found Layne, and just embracing my path and embracing being a woman.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing that with us. I used to think that it was a punishment for me being a woman as well. I was like, I know that I was a man in my past life, and I must have done really horrible things to women, so now I have to be a woman in this life and deal with it. And I don't know where I came up with that. That was something that I was saying, and I was in my teens and my early 20s, because I didn't connect with women. I connected with the Gladiator. I went to see the Gladiator in the movie theater 3 times, and I wasn't going because I thought that Russell Crowe was cute, or whoever that guy is. I was like, no, I'm identifying with him. Many of us do have these memories from the burning times. And I did have one of those memories when I was young, before I even think I was old enough to make sense of everything. As soon as I heard about what they had done to women and what the church had done to women, I knew that they burned me. I knew it. And from a very young age, I didn't want to have anything to do with any of those organizations, because I had those memories. I had that defensiveness of myself. So how empowering to find these women that were playing drums of all things and then teaching you. And so now you teach this to other women and you share this with other women. The first time I was in your circle, we were playing and I closed my eyes, and so my music, when I write music, I initially started writing my music from dreaming. I would wake up and I would be music in my mind and I would write it. I would just figure it out on the guitar. And it always would go back to the same place. I was always in the forest, and I was always in a circle of women around a fire, and there was always drums. So even though I was playing the guitar and I was singing, I was always hearing the drum. And when I opened my eyes, when I was in the circle at your place playing, and I closed my eyes and just got lost in it. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of like, it's happening. I'm just naturally playing. And then I opened my eyes and I looked around the room and looked at all of these women, and I was like, this is the same. It just felt the same. And I was having all of those. Some of us have maybe visual memories, but some of us have like these physical memories. It's just like all of a sudden you can feel yourself, and you feel yourself sitting in the circle, and you have these memories of doing it so many times before. So that's amazing. It's just an amazing experience for anyone to have. And so many of us are having these experiences nowadays. So I think it's powerful that you offer these circles, for so many reasons. It's like you offer circles, any of us that offer circles, and then there's another woman that offers the circle because she's so inspired by it, and then another woman, and then another woman. And so we are all getting to have this experience of sitting together again. So you have taught that the drum, so I guess my question would be like, how did they know that the women were playing the drums back in the day? And I know from you that whether there were paintings or statues, and there were women that were holding the drum, and that the drum was I would love for you to tell about that they were holding like an aspect of consciousness.
Yeah, so Layne did 10 years, well, longer, research and traveled all over the Mediterranean in search of anything she can find about the women frame drummers. So her teacher, Velez, he's known for as the father of modern frame drumming, and she's considered like the mother of modern frame drumming. He actually collected the first 200 slides of ancient drummers, and that's where she discovered like, oh, these are all women, and she organized them. And then she thought, well, who are these women? Why were they holding the drum? And what happened to them? So in her research, she started collecting thousands of more images of the drumming, of women drumming. So yeah, figurines, statues, carvings on temple walls and in caves, and paintings on plates and vases. And she discovered that they were depictions of the goddess or the priestesses in service to the goddess. And so there's different goddesses in the Mediterranean area. They were called Melissas or Deborahs, which mean bee in Greek and bee in Hebrew. So they were referred to as bee priestesses. And she was wondering, well, why are they all specifically holding the frame drum? So I guess when you're studying archaeological things, when a god or a goddess holds something in their hand, they're holding an attribute of consciousness or spirituality. And so she discovered that the drum was a representation of the first sound that manifests all of creation, that creates all of life. So, just like in the Bible, it says, in the beginning was the Word. The Word is the vibration. So really down to our cells and our atoms, we're like all made of vibration. It's sound, the Big Bang. And so what they were holding is representing creation. And she also says the first sound we ever hear is the sound of our mother's blood pulsing through her arteries while we're fetuses in the womb. Our place of oneness, our time, at oneness with our mother. And that the womb was also the place of creation of all of life. So as women, we were considered like creatrixes. We had the ability to bring forth life through the womb. She also studied the images on the frame drum, one of which that we turned over is the lotus. So the lotus represents also the womb. So, the womb creating life. And so she put that on her drum. This is her signature series drum. It's called the Lotus. And so.
And is that like the drum that you had to find to take her class?
Yeah, it had to be a drum that had a head, and then had to have 2 rows of jingles, because you have to hold it a certain way. That needs two jingles to hold it. Yeah. So yeah, I luckily coincidentally found the right right store that had the right drum, and in my lunchtime period. So it's meant to be, and I really was feeling, Joseph Campbell. When you see the sign, when you know what you want to do, then things will just unfold like how they're supposed to. And so, holding the drum, they were kind of like transmitting, hey, we are, we're holding all of creation in the drum, and then you have to think the circle, what does the circle represent? So oneness, wholeness, unity, community, cycles of life, the sun, the moon, the earth, the primordial egg. So really the whole cosmos, the first sound that we ever hear, the drum is the echo of that pulse that we heard in our mother's womb. And so for me, the drum becomes the voice of the mother, the voice of the womb, the voice of the divine feminine. And so when I hold this drum, I'm not just holding a drum, I'm holding all that it represents. And so that makes all the difference for my playing, that energy of knowing what it is that I'm holding. And so I just imagine I'm one of those statues, but a living statue. When we're in class, I always remind everyone, we ground into, what does the drum mean for us? And so that we know that when we're playing, we're just not just playing, but that all that we play is actually an offering. And, that's what Layne considered what she was doing whenever she played was really an offering. She knew what it is that she was holding. And so
powerful.
Yeah, all of it's been really life-changing for me. And that's why, visibility of the drum is really, really important. Also for Layne too. And so, I'm dedicated and committed to keeping just the frame drum, women frame drummers specifically, visible, at least online.
Yeah, you're doing a good job of that as well. So when did that's like your mission. When did that kick in for you?
Well, so Layne was the first person I saw play live. And then I was like, after I saw her, I'm like, I want to see more women. Where are all the women? And I was like, I didn't know, there wasn't any place online to find them. I didn't even know who else was playing. And the internet was just getting started for me. I wasn't on it that much. But then when I got a computer, MySpace was just getting popular. So I thought, well, I'm just going to hop onto MySpace, and I created my own my own profile with the drum. By the time I was already, I'd already been playing and performing. And then I thought, well, if I put a women frame drumming MySpace page, then maybe I will find them. I got this idea from this movie. I think this movie we talked about. If you build it,
Field of Dreams.
What was it?
Yes, build it. It's the Field of Dreams.
Yes.
And if you build it, they will come. Yes, he was.
So that's what I did. I created a whole, women frame drumming thing, and then I started searching for the women, or they would find me too. But I started off with this frame drum website by N. Scott Robinson, and he had already collected like a whole number of frame drummers and their names, and so I found some of them on there. I'm like, oh, name, and then I would check on MySpace, and I would collect all the women frame drumming, find their videos on YouTube, and then it made sense to create a YouTube for women frame drumming. So I started collecting videos and making playlists, and so I have 800 videos that I have now collected and put in playlists, and I've watched them all. That's like
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah, because I wanted a resource because I couldn't find them. So now there's a place you can go to YouTube, put in women frame drumming, and then you'll find the YouTube channel, and then there's all these playlists of different kinds of drums. So the MySpace was really the big place to find everybody at that time. And I told Layne, I go, Layne, everyone's going on Facebook. You got to get on there. So she got on and she put like a bunch of profiles up because she has so many projects. So she had put her bee, hymns to the hive, from the hive. It's her music that's based around the recording of the bees. She recorded the beehives, and then she pitched her drums to the tune of the bees, and then created music around that.
So wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. So she has one page for that, and she has another page for the music that she did in Brazil, another page that she did for music that she's singing the Bija seed syllables from India. She was someone that really followed everything that called to her. She was really interested in so many things. And then I said, don't forget to do one for your book. And she goes, no. She goes, you can do that. I'm like, no, it's your book. She goes, yeah, but you should do it. And so I had the honor and blessing to have her MySpace When the Drummers Were Women's page. And that was really a wonderful experience because people would write to the page thinking they're writing to her and just telling her how much their life has changed because they've read the book, or now they're drumming because they read her book. So I would like send the messages back to her, like, hey, this is this beautiful message from this person. So MySpace was the first place really like to land everyone together. Once that created, then everyone started finding it, and then you find all each other. You start finding all the other women frame drummers are finding each other, and so forth. And that was so exciting. Like I was like, oh, wow! And I didn't know there were so many different types of drums out there. That there's actually still traditions alive where the women are playing that have not been stopped. So, like in Spain, in Portugal, the women are still playing. There's videos now out there of like the women that are like in their 70s and 80s singing the old songs, on these tambourines.
Awesome.
And so this became like a rich resource to have. Layne was like, you did it. You this is the most important thing for the women frame drum. I'm like, no, your book is the most important thing. Just to have a hub of a place to land where everyone now can just find each other like that.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too for women. They want to find each other.
Yeah.
Just like you.
Yeah, and then Facebook happened. It took a while to like learn Facebook, and so I created
The same.
I created a group first, and so the group, and then I created the main official page, and then there's also a personal profile page that's called Melissa Deborah. So it's easy for me to navigate to find other women frame drummers, and then I'm just dedicated to posting, creating content putting content on them. And it's like almost, I won't say full-time job. It's a big part-time job. That's, I just do the labor of love for free. And now I don't know, it's now been like 9 or 10 years since I've been doing this. Pretty much by myself. I have one student helping me last year and a little bit this year. And yeah, and so a lot of people found each other. People are now taking each other's workshops and things like that. And yeah, so I've been just dedicated for the last 9-10 years of keeping it visibility for the women frame drumming, so that it's a door to enter, and then from there people can navigate where they want to. And then when Layne passed away, I already knew that I would want to take care of her pages too, so that she has a presence online. So I take care of her women frame drumming page and her hymns for the hive.
That's awesome.
And I created some groups, but not everyone's so into like sharing their sharing their stuff. And I try to keep track of the women that are still teaching. Just if they end up in my newsfeed, it's a little hard to try to keep up with everything. But if I see them in the newsfeed, then I'll get them. So I periodically tell people, tag us, tag yourself, women frame drumming, invite, to the Melissa Deborah page to your women frame drumming events. Then it's easier to find.
People are so people get uncomfortable with being exposed on social media and all of that, but it's really such an amazing time that we're living in, that we have these tools. And just for anyone that this is you and like you're not sharing, it's a powerful tool of awakening for another woman who is watching. So maybe she particularly identifies with you, or maybe she's never seen it ever before, and just somehow she's being led to you. So it's for bigger picture also, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just the fact that you're just doing it, holding the drum. And so why do you think that this is powerful for women now, to be being called to the drum and to find the drum?
I think it's probably different for each woman. Some women don't even know. It's like they'll see it for the first time and then they're like, whoa, I don't know why I feel drawn, but I need to come, and then other people might have seen it, but they are intimidated by it. But then if they see their friend play it, then they're like, oh. So I had 2 years where I taught actual frame drum songs and then performed them. And so and did per sessions, so like with 15 to 20 other women. So
I want to do that. I want to do that.
And so when I did that, that's when I had a lot more women wanted to play after that, because they saw all their friends on stage playing. They're like, oh, okay, well, if they can do it, I could do it. And really, I feel like I would like to see the drum in every home, the frame drum in every home. It's the oldest archetypal drum, the first one, and it's like the one that's least known or least seen. Even in the drumming circles, you go to a drum circle, and most of the drums are the bigger drums, and the frame drum is a little more subtle and quieter, and you can't really hear it in the big frame drumming. In the big drum circles, so it's not really seen too much. And so I just feel like I'm part of the history of it unfolding by continuing to teach and share the drum. So sometimes I'll ask them, well, how did you find it? They're like, oh, I saw my friend's picture, her holding the drum, and I was curious about it, or I saw it in the news feed from another friend, or they saw me perform, in a concert, and at some point they're like, okay, I'm gonna come to a workshop, and they want to be in circle with women. One thing, and then seeing another woman put aside the story that drumming is for men. And so there's sometimes women will come for the first time, and I'll look over and I'm like, wow, it looks like they've been playing for a while. I'm like, oh, did you play before? And they're like, no, it's my first time. I go, did it feel familiar? They're like, yeah. So I do, because my personal experience is when I saw the drum, it was like a remembrance, activation of remembrance. And when I have it in my hand, I feel so at one with it. It's like one of my limbs. And I know that I can't be alone in this. So the importance of making it visible, so when people see it, they're like, oh, for me, it's implanting seeds. And for any woman that's holding the drum and showing, it's kind of like planting seeds, just like the statues. And there's that memory of the ancient women drummers who were the priestesses. They were in tune and in rhythm with the cycles of nature and the earth. And that's what's missing right now, is that we are, as a species, disconnected to the earth, which we are made from. And I think there's a longing for that reconnection, because everything is governed by rhythm, and the drum is kind of like the mirror or the echo of how of the rhythm of life. And so, you know, when we're in the womb, we were in entrainment, in tune with our mother heartbeat. So when you have music, when you have the drum, there's that re-experiencing that in training to the drum, because it's a tool for really communal bonding and in training everyone, because we all get drawn to the beat. Oh, and then all of a sudden we're all moving and rocking at the same time. So then we're like the school of fish or the flock of birds, you know, this oneness thing happening with the drum. And I think maybe there's just, you know, there's that memory, like, oh, okay, we played these drums to honor the cycles of life and the cycles of birth and coming into adulthood, for funeral rites and for marriage, for the crops to come up, to honor the cycles of the moon, or even our own cycles, our own body cycles of our blood. So there's something about the drum. I don't know, the drum's having its own thing, you know, I feel like, and I'm just gonna be visible, and if you want to come study with me, or whoever you see on the women frame drumming, go. Just follow your calling. If you want to, you know, if you like have a story that, oh, I don't have rhythm, this and that, just put those stories aside for a moment. We are rhythmic beings. We got a heartbeat, we walk in rhythm, we talk in rhythm, we dance, you have rhythm. And Layne was really big at wanting the drumming to be accessible for people who thought they were non-musicians. She didn't grow up as a musician. She was into art. She had tap dancing, but she was into mythology and art, and she was doing art installations at the time. And so she didn't have a musical background. And so anyone that feels called to play, you can come play. You know, find a teacher in your area, or go fly to a retreat, a drumming retreat.
And it happens pretty quickly too. I mean, that's one of the things that I say also if I'm trying to bring friends to circle, is that you don't have to know how, and within a 2-hour period you're going to have the experience of playing. You're going to have it. There'll be a time where that was the first circle that I was in, that I had my eyes closed. And yes, I'm a musician, but even still, one of my things about the drums, I've always really wanted to play it, but then just didn't necessarily know if I was going to be any good, or if it was my instrument or any of that. And in our culture here, we don't dance and we don't play drums and we don't sing. Some of us do, but a lot of us don't. And I'm even one of those people where people are always shocked to find out, you know, how long it took me to actually sing out loud in front of people. And it was just something that I kept in, because there's just not experiences for us to do it. And there's like so much fear. And when you just sit down with this instrument, and you and so many of the other people in the circle have never even held it before, you know, it just really becomes fun, and you just allow yourself to play it. And it's also simple. And even though you want to come back to circle again and again, I mean, you could really leave the circle with the drum and have enough information where you could sit with it and you could play it for the rest of your life. Which was, you know, why I felt it's so empowering. It's so empowering to offer it. And you don't have to know anyone to show up to these circles. If you see a class that's being offered, just go and see what happens. And the things that do happen are really powerful. And so many of us, we take that drum and we're like, I'm never going to not play. One of the things that really called me was that you could sing into it. So I saw you singing through it in the video, and then my friend Lisa, she showed up to, she's the one that brought me to your circle to begin with, but she came to one of my circles and she brought her drum, and I was like, if anyone else would like to offer a song. And so she pulled out the drum, and, you know, she held it, you know, here's my drum, but she held it, you know, sideways to her face like this. And some of you have seen me doing it. It creates like an incredible reverb, really. And it resonates, and it's amazing to feel your own voice and to feel it through the drum. And that's what that called me to it immediately. I was like, I have to have that. I have to have that experience. It sounds like singing in the cave, and it's just you and your drum. So that part's really exciting. And so I invite everyone to try that out for yourself. We all have a voice. We all have a voice. We all have a rhythm. We all have the right to experience this, what it feels like. And we all have a right to remember. And that's what I think is so powerful about it right now, is that it is a tool for remembrance. People are remembering parts of themselves that were lost, or memories from past lives that are important for us to remember, those things about being women and about having important roles in society and about having important roles in ritual and with music, and that all of it's important.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thank you so much for everything that you offer. I would love for you to share with us how people can find you. What are like your main pages? And if I know that you do private lessons and you do Skype lessons and you also do group lessons for people that live in the Los Angeles area, but if there's someone who's living far away, how can they find you and how can they work with you?
So my main place to land is my music page, Miranda Rondeau's music page on Facebook. And then I have a personal profile, but it's maxed out. But you can follow me if you want. But usually I'll post all the events on the music page first, and then second I will send an email. So if you want to get on my email list, it's just my name, Miranda Rondeau @yahoo.com. For local. Yes, I do Skype sessions and or Zoom. And then I teach regularly here in Los Angeles and Rancho Palos Verdes bi-weekly on Thursdays. You do have to already know how to play the basic strokes already to join the class. I have an introduction coming up next month, March 24th, in Playa del Rey, California, a place called Ayam. It's called the Heart of Frame Drumming, rhythm, chant, and some ceremonial drumming. And that will be from 1 to 4. And then every once in a while I'll do an online workshop. And to get on that mailing list, it's called framedrumcirclesong@gmail.com. And so that's my other frame drum page for online offerings is Frame Drum Circle Song. I have a main page for that as well. So those are the ways that you can find me, is through the music pages on Facebook, Miranda Rondeau's music page, or Frame Drum Circle Song page, and then email list, mirandarondeau@yahoo.com or framedrumcirclesong@gmail.com. And then I invite everyone to, visit the Women Frame Drumming pages. It's just called that, Women Frame Drumming, and Layne's pages, When the Drummers Were Women, and our YouTube pages of all the same names, Women Frame Drumming. If you put my name, Miranda Rondeau, you also will find my YouTube page, and there's a Frame Drum Circle Song on YouTube as well. Yeah.
And I know you have a performance coming.
Oh, well, it's a whole group of different musicians, but I will probably open it up and play some songs. And it's this Friday. It's based on the album Birds of Paradise, and it's going to be in LA, March 1st, Friday, in this beautiful church, very high heat ceilings. It'll be a really beautiful event, so you're all invited to come join for that as well.
Awesome. So I'm not sure, about this connection and, how well the music would come through, but I would love it if you would play something for us on your drum and sing.
Okay.
And if it works out, then I can keep it and put it on the podcast later. And, if not, everybody who's watching, we can experience you and can hear you and watch you. Yeah, please. Amazing. So beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for joining us on the show, and thank you for all of the work that you're doing and all that you share, and you have touched my life, and I encourage anyone out there that feels excited and inspired by this, just jump in and just reach out. You can reach out to me if you have any questions, and obviously reach out to Miranda. So yeah, I'll let you go, but thank you so much, and blessed be.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.